energy output starts increasing, and suddenly after 1 or 2 years it starts increasing and then starts decreasing of a defined lifetime. So RTG batteries have mostly a lifetime of, let's say, 200 years or so, which is quite enough. But as said before, you don't have this in a normal spacecraft. You can't simply go to a supermarket or so and buy an RTG battery, because it's based on radioisotopic material. You simply don't get it, the material itself. So what does this mean? So if you don't scale the sending side and the energy side accordingly, you always end up with a smaller bandwidth the further you go away. So we'll give you some examples about bandwidth. It's quite interesting with the latest Mars missions. But let's look at the second side. There's two sides of this problem. The second side is availability. Availability can mean a lot, so I'm just to have prepared the following slide. The slide, you can see every object in our universe is rotating around its own axis, and some objects, like the moon, are even rotating around other planets, and at all they're rotating around the sun. So, you can see all these trajectories right here. Okay, you have trajectories again. Okay, so let's take a look at, for example. So we have a craft right here. I've just sent up a spacecraft and it's traveling around Mars. I don't know why, but it's right there in this moment. So, and now I want to send some data to my spacecraft. Let's do a kernel update or something like this. So, but you can easily see the problem. In this point, you see, the spacecraft is not, let's say, human eye visible to Earth. So, in regards of radio communications, you don't always need visual seeing. You don't need a visual line of sight. That's the word I want. But in this case, Mars is simply so big that it blocks all communication signals. So you would have to wait for a window, something like this, where your craft is somewhere here. Maybe doing a Lagrange transaction, and you can see, hey, cool, I got direct line of sight to Earth. So now I can sit down in my backyard in Berlin and do a kernel update. Really? Let's see at this. So, let's look at our example. I've implemented some nice viewports for you. So, for example, I'm sitting in Berlin, want to do my kernel update. So, but my spacecraft, this viewport is surrounding the moon. We have a problem. The moon, where my spacecraft on the surface, is facing northern and southern American part of Earth. So the only antenna available listening to this communication and may be able to upload and download data, maybe the VLA or some other antennas placed around the USA. So, let's introduce a new object, and this is. So everyone is talking about CubeSats right now. I don't know why, but most people are quite interested in them, so I introduced one. So, okay, some university launched a CubeSat, want to do a kernel update too. I don't know why, but all want to do it. And this university has a deal with NASA and want to use the VLA. This is quite a normal thing. Most universities and non-profit organizations use things like SETI or the Very Large Array in New Mexico to transmit and receive data. But look at this. If you see the trajectory of the CubeSat moving around the Earth, you see that it just has passed the VLA. So it takes a distinct amount of time, depending on the rotational speed of the CubeSat, to return into its communication window. So right now, for example, I would have to wait 24 hours to get my communication link back. This is something that's pretty not cool in regards of nowadays communication. So there are some solutions already to this, but these solutions aren't quite fit. But I will tell you about something more about this. Okay. So you see the problem with availability. You don't always have an antenna just in the shot. So, okay, let's come to the solution part. Okay. What do we need to build a solution for this problem of distance and availability? First of all, we stick to an FPGA hardware. This is some component we really like. We use it in all our electronics, and this is one of the reasons why we've partnered with Xilinx. And what is the reason why we choose an FPGA as a control unit? FPGA can do great things. I'm sure some of you on this are radio amateurs here in the audience. So they will know what it means to do frequency shifting. You have it on your VLAN adapter, does it all the time. An FPGA can do frequency shifting in hardware. An FPGA, you have to imagine that an FPGA is a chip itself, which emulates an entire printed circuit board. So you can reroute it on the fly. You have you can change everything you want in regards of the frequency and sub-frequencies. So FPGAs have so-called IP cores. Arne told you about it. IP cores are highly optimized subroutines which allow you to do very fast transactions that you couldn't do on a normal computer system. Things like stream modulation, doing on your normal PC, would simply knock out the entire system and you had 99% CPU usage and you couldn't use the system for anything else. Doing it with an FPGA just use about, let's say, 5 or 3% of the entire system resources, and the system can still do a dozen of other things. So FPGAs are really suited for distributed tasks in this regard. Okay, and most important, I don't know any FPGA featuring a Windows system, so all FPGAs are based on GNU Linux system. So why is this important? This is important because you got the GNU toolchain with all daemons you need. This includes all the IP protocols and network layers. You will see why we need network layers in this regard. So, and you need our satellite dish. But most of you think, okay, I want to communicate with something in orbit around Moon. So you're thinking, okay, I need this large, high-gain antenna, 30 diameter long, and I put it on my rooftop. Okay, nobody has a rooftop that could hold that big antenna. So why not try to do this with a standard size antenna? The standardized antenna you can buy, the largest one, would be about 90 centimeters in diameter. This is a standard size antenna. If you buy it in China, you can get it for 10 euro. It's pretty cheap. It's not like the things you pay if you go to a normal media store. So, okay, we've got our standard dish. No, standard dish is just made to receive satellite TV. So we have to do some slight modifications for it, but you can easily find it through Google, and it's quite easy if you ask someone who is from the radio amateur section. So you can do sending and receiving with the satellite dish. But, and this is very important, exclusively in Germany, you have to always make sure that everything you do is compliant with the amateur radio regulations. Because if you do not, you can get arrested for it. Okay, so we've got these two parts, and now let's see what we can make out of it. So this picture is pretty full of a lot of stuff, so I will start explaining it all separately. Let's start again. Do you see a lot of blue points? What is this? I don't know. Earth is not sick or something like this. And okay, let's start. The blue points are so-called, as we call it, link stations. A link station is simply both components bound together. We got a FPGA lined up with a satellite dish and some additional component to do the frequency controlling. It's just some electronics around it. So all this together gives a tiny black box that is mounted on the surface, or the back surface of the parabolic antenna. And the parabolic antenna itself is featured on a steering motor, so it can be rotated in any direction. There are a lot of details in this regard, so if you're interested in getting details about this link station, just talk to me outside after the presentation. So just keep it simple. So this link station has a Linux system running, has a satellite dish attached, can shift any frequency at once, and can send and receive data. And one additional thing, it's connected to the internet. So, some of you already imagine what you can do with something like this. So, first of all, you say, oh my God, this costs a lot of money. No, it doesn't. If you think about FPGA hardware, we already built prototype in this regard. We're talking about less than 1,000 euros for one unit. So, it's definitely easy to deploy because it's not very expensive. I will tell you a little bit about our current prototyping status after we'll do it for this slide. Okay, so we have connected all these dots in the internet, so let's connect them to a central gateway. For our sake of simplicity, I say just a central gateway is sitting here somewhere in Germany. Okay, and all systems are connected via the internet to this gateway. So now, we have our surface probe on the moon, and we want to communicate with it. So, to communicate with the moon, you need a relatively large antenna with, let's say, at least 15 meter